Welcome back to Self-Help. In this video, we're going to be talking about different thinking traps associated with caring too much about what other people think about you. So if you're feeling anxious about certain social situations, chances are that you have thoughts driving that anxiety. And it's going to be a certain pattern of thinking, which in this video we're going to call thinking traps, or another word is cognitive distortions. We're going to stick to thinking traps. And the idea is that these thinking traps are the issue behind your anxiety in these different social situations. So we've already covered in past videos that it doesn't help to fight against certain thoughts. So the purpose of this video is going to be to outline the 4 main types of thinking traps that are associated with social anxiety or caring too much about what other people think about you. The idea is that the better your awareness is about these different thinking traps, the better you're going to be able to steer yourself away from them and recognize when they're there. That way you'll still be able to function the way you'd like to in whatever social situation you find yourself in. Before we jump into these 4 main types, I want to get to know your experience with different patterns of thinking that have affected you and how you interact with other people.
Yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind right now is all my life I love to sing, and I never really told anyone that for my entire life. Literally for 19 years, no one really knew that about me. I would specifically wait till my parents were gone and I was home alone to sing to myself, or when I was in the car driving somewhere by myself. And until just recently, I actually kind of came out of that shell. But I think mostly I was just afraid of that I just wasn't good enough. I mean, I feel like a lot of people feel that way, and I mean, it's normal, but yeah, I just thought that maybe I wasn't good enough. Like, what would people think? Like, if I tried to kind of come out of my shell and show the world what I sounded like, because I honestly didn't know. I honestly didn't know if I was good or not, because I was just my own critic, I guess. So.
So it sounds like you were really worried about what other people might think about you if you like tried to singing or like tried to put yourself out there a little bit more. Okay, and so because of that, you just never did it.
Nope.
It's true. It wasn't like I had no idea about this until like a couple months ago. And I remember you were telling me.
Yeah, I was like on the phone or something, and I said something about singing, and you were like, "What?"
Just like that.
What are you talking about?
What?
He's like, you never.
What now?
You're like, you're lying. You're like, you've never been that way.
Yeah, and I was
like to do that.
I was so confused because never had it been on anybody's radar that you sang or even liked to sing.
Yeah.
Like, and there were so many opportunities for you to like sing in front of people. I don't know.
I know.
Like, it was bizarre to us. So shortly after that, I still haven't heard you ever sing live, which is fine. But I convinced you to send me an audio recording. You know, it's just like a voice memo.
Yeah.
Of like you singing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I remember when you sent it to me, the only thing I sent back was like, "That's not you," and it was just crazy to me because I had never heard it before, but it was really, really good. And I think part of me was like jealous deep down because I love to sing. I'm terrible at singing. But I really like to. And all growing up, I like wanted to be able to sing well, and I'd like write songs and sing and stuff.
When we were growing up, and when I was seeing that he was into all of the, singing and songwriting, and like you like would make like little songs and like record them, and I always was like, oh, like I wanna do that. Like I wish I could do that. I just need courage to just not care. See, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I just needed to not care what people thought, because I really thought that they'd be like, "Boo, you stink."
Boo!
Yeah.
Get off the living room table.
What?
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. But yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And this isn't to say that you like have to share your talents or your interests with the entire world, right? But I feel like when it's not something that's so hidden and maybe even shameful, or something that you're like so worried that other people might find out about you, then it's really liberating when you can just do it. Like just live the life you want to live and to do those things. And I think sharing them with other people who also like it and appreciate it is a really wonderful and meaningful thing that you can do in your life. And that's really what's important, is that you can think of all the different expressions of art that people enjoy. I mean, movies, music, different things like that. If everybody in the world was too afraid of what other people were going to think, then we wouldn't have any of that stuff.
No, nothing would exist.
Right. And so I think that's why this topic is especially important, because we want people to just feel comfortable with whatever they're interested in or whatever they're good at. And like I said, they don't have to share that with the entire world, but they might find meaning in that, and we want to encourage that.
Yeah.
So now we're going to jump into those 4 main thinking traps. The first one is mind reading. And this is where you assume that you know exactly what other people are thinking, and not only that, but that they're thinking the same negative things about you that you're thinking about yourself. And I feel like this is a pretty common one where, like, oh, I'm thinking that I look really bad, and so everybody else who sees me must be thinking that exact same thing, you know? But it's funny because people just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I used to be, I remember elementary school, I was so worried that I had little alfalfa hairs sticking up. Like, oh my gosh, I was so worried. And
That's so
our
sad.
mom called them turkey tails.
Oh my gosh, of course.
So I was always afraid that I had turkey tails. And I would ask mom all the time, like before school, like we'd be driving in the minivan, you know, and I'd be like, do I have any turkey tails? Like, I'd be so worried because I didn't want anybody to see me have any turkey tails.
That's like normal. That's like that's not even a bad thing.
I know it's not, but I think even to this day, I'm still kind of worried about turkey tails.
You don't even. It's like the back of your head shaved. How would you even have?
That's because I don't want any turkey tails.
What? That's not even a that is so
I'll even
funny.
take off like my hat or my helmet if I'm going somewhere, and I'll like check a mirror to make sure I don't have any turkey tails. But I'm not doing it as much
Is there
anymore.
anything back then that made you, like, a negative experience that you had that made you think that was a bad thing?
No, that's the thing, is I think that's what's so powerful about this stuff, is that there doesn't necessarily have to be a negative experience.
Like,
yeah, you just think it.
Yeah, and you just think that everyone else thinks it's a bad thing.
Because you're mind reading. You're in this thinking trap
my
that you're mind
goodness.
reading, thinking that everybody else is
Yeah.
like so concerned about you and what your hair looks like. But can you even recall any time where you thought about somebody else's like appearance or their hair, and you're like, oh wow, that's terrible, and then it's like stuck with you?
I mean, no, like.
Right, because
Yeah.
everybody's so worried about themselves that they have no time to care about what
It's
you're
true.
doing, what you look like.
Because it's like, oh my gosh, it's like you have all this, like all these thoughts, like, oh my gosh, like everyone's looking at me, and everyone's like, but everyone's feeling the exact same way, so no one has the energy or time to like look at you and feel the same way they feel about themselves.
Right, exactly.
Like.
So another thinking trap is fortune telling. And this is where you assume or you think that the absolute worst thing is going to happen. You just know that things are going to go terribly wrong, or they're just going to be horrible, and you're already anxious about that happening. And it's funny because it's not happening whenever you're feeling anxious about it, and chances are it won't happen. But you're in this thinking trap of fortune telling, saying to yourself, oh man, it's going to go horribly wrong. Like the worst thing that could ever happen is going to happen. And maybe that's what happened with you. Well, it's an example of some fortune telling from your experience.
I think, like, back to when we were talking about the singing thing, and if I come out and I'm like, hey, like, I like to sing, and then maybe it doesn't amount to what they think, and so they think I'm not good, obviously, or whatever,
Right.
And then that just would hurt my feelings, obviously, like,
It would be terrible.
yeah, that would suck, like,
Right.
and then I'd be like, well, now I know why I sat for 19 years and made sure no one heard me, like.
Right. Because I'm terrible.
Yeah.
So sad. So the third thinking trap we're going to cover is catastrophizing. That sounded weird coming out, but I think that's right. Catastrophizing. Catastrophizing. Basically, it's blowing everything out of proportion and just assuming the absolute worst. For example, you think like, if people notice that I'm nervous right now, that would be the worst thing to ever happen in the world, and that would be terrible and awful. And it's just this pattern of thinking where everything is a catastrophe. Everything is so much worse than it actually is. Like, you see your friend walking down the hall or down the street, and you wave to him, and they don't wave back. You might be thinking,
Yeah,
oh my word, they hate me, or they showed that embarrassing picture of me at the Christmas party. And
or it could even be like, you did that and you're waving to someone and they don't wave back, and then you're worried that other people around saw that, and you're like, oh my gosh, like people think I'm a loser.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Stuff like that. So it could even be
Catastrophizing
the
that
other
way.
way too.
But I feel like this one's pretty common in that it kind of bleeds into a lot of the other thinking traps, but really it's blowing things out of proportion and just thinking just the absolute worst case scenario.
In like the smallest situation, like just the
smallest things.
Yeah.
Right. That most likely, actually not most likely, but that just definitely do not matter.
You're just like, it just definitely doesn't matter.
It's true.
Just flat out.
Sometimes you got to get really direct with people, and that's the truth. The last one is personalizing. It's basically where you assume that the spotlight is always on you, and that everybody's paying attention to you, and that everybody's watching every move that you make, and that everything's basically about you. And that what is going on with other people around you has to always do with you.
Like maybe someone said something that you personally are like struggling with. So it's like you have these thoughts about, oh crap. It's like you have these thoughts about yourself, and then maybe you're in a group setting and people are talking, and then someone says something and that you like have been thinking about and that like struggling with, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, like they know and they are trying to say something right now to me because they're, you know, it's
they're
like
calling me out.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to expose me, and
I'm feeling personally attacked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's like exactly what it is.
Personalization. Yeah. Personalizing. And just assuming that, like I said, whatever's going on is all about you. Whatever anybody says or does is like aimed at you and personally for you.
It's like everyone's out to get you for literally no reason. Like that's what I feel like.
So to review, we had mind reading, fortune telling, catastrophizing, and personalizing. Like I said at the beginning, these thinking traps are very, very common. And just becoming more aware of them or more mindful of whether you're falling into these thinking traps is going to help you, because they're normal. The beauty is that you can be in these different thinking traps and still be okay. Just recognizing that, like, oh, I'm in a thinking trap, or oh, this is a cognitive distortion. This is like my brain playing tricks on me.
Yeah.
Then that is usually enough to say, well, because I know that it's not reality and it's just my brain messing with me, it doesn't matter, and I can still just do what it is I want to do.
It's just me thinking this, like I'm the one like putting this situation on myself, no one else feels this way, it's just me. Right.
Thanks, brain. I'm gonna go talk to that person anyway, or I'm gonna go do this thing anyway, whatever it might be. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you want to follow Brooklyn, I'm gonna link her Instagram in the description below. Be sure to watch the next video, which is going to be about how to focus on other people and the situation and not focusing so much on yourself. So we'll see you there.